This is Luke Bragg, co-founder of Profila, and this is another episode in our series about WTF is Profila. Today, we're going to talk about equilibrium, which might be an odd topic, but we're going to talk about equilibrium, which in my mind really means the balancing between two forces. So I want to talk a little bit about a differentiator, how Profila is different, how we've conceived Profila differently than what we've experienced on the internet now with social media platforms and such. Obviously, all of us at Profila use social media. It's brought great joy to our lives, but also we experience the frustrations that a lot of people do. And we knew that there was a space for something that was kind of an unsocial platform, which is what Profila is. Profila is a private place for communication between brands and individuals, where you are in much more control than you are now. And that's really the balance, the equilibrium I want to talk about, is kind of what the current state is in these sort of situations and what the future state will look like with Profila. So I'm not going to do a demo as much as just have this brand moment on the screen. We'll stay up there as an example. Is kind of talk through how things work now and how things should work and will work in the future. So this looks like any kind of social media post you can imagine. So imagine you're on one of these existing platforms now. You follow this football team and you've received communication from them in your feed. Now, I think one thing that we constantly think about with Profila is we're in the relationship business. We're not opposed to brands. We're not opposed to the communication and marketing to do, because people like to buy stuff. People like to have communication from the brands, the organizations that they love. But it's very imbalanced. So now your choice is really to like or follow any organization or brands like Juventus on a social media platform. Once you've done that, some of your data now goes to them. They have access to whatever data exists about you on that platform as part of their paid package for using the platform as well. Secondly, they decide the cadence of communication. They decide how often they're going to post. They decide how often your feed is going to be cluttered with their content, even if it's not relevant for you. And they don't know if it's not relevant for you because it's one message for everybody. If they post something on Instagram, it shows up for everybody. There's no segmentation for following an organization on these platforms. You're just getting everything they're throwing out into the world. They are in control. They have your data. They control the pipes, and it's an imbalance. But we've kind of accepted it because that's just how it works. You follow brands, and they then are in control, and your only choice really is to unfollow them and sever the connection, or nothing, or accept. And I think that's an unacceptable situation. If you think about then with Profila, so again, we're on the Profila platform here. What we want to do is change that equilibrium. And we think that changing that, rebalancing that into a much more equal footing between you and the organizations you want to communicate with, we think that will benefit both sides. We think that brands will be able to market to you smarter, be able to sell you more for less spend, and you have a much better sense that your data is protected and the relationships you have are consensual on your part. And I think that's a key thing I like to think about is everybody has a lot more relationships in their life than they think that they do. We think about family and friends and relationships and the people we come across, but you also have relationships with any organization that you're interacting with online. You don't think about a relationship because it's not framed that way, and also it's very imbalanced. They have all the power, or most of the power in the situation. And we want to get to a situation where the relationships are much more balanced. So in this case, with the Profila platform, first of all, let's say Juventus invited me to the platform. They wanted to take their best social media supporters and say, okay, let's bring their best supporters into a private environment to be able to market to them better than they can now, more targeted, more segmented, while also protecting their supporters' data. So in this situation, I connected with Juventus, which in Profila speak means I'm raising my hand and saying, Juventus, I'm here. I'm here. I'm going to share a little bit of demographics with you, maybe my age, maybe my location, my gender. And I am open, say you're announcing to the brand, I am open for a data relationship with you. I'm open for a better relationship based on a better equilibrium. In this situation, then Juventus had set up a subscription offer, which is a data contract. It is a testament to say, okay, Luke, well, they don't know who I am at that point. Okay, Mr. Random Person in Switzerland who's a man, we would like to have access to certain personal information. Again, your name, your location, your age, things like that. But also we want to have access to some of your psychographics, some of what's in my head and what's in my heart. And those are the things that they can't get now. They have to guess because the platforms have to guess. And they're guessing based on what you like and what you follow and what you click on. And while I have no doubt that informs some of who you are as a human being, it's not even close to capturing it. But that's all brands have access to. That's all platforms have access to. That's then what they use. The existing paradigm is so poor, which is why we're confident that when brands start realizing what they can do in Profila, it will be a very, very easy choice. Why am I paying a third party for bad data, inaccurate data, unethically sourced in often cases data about our supporters when I can go directly to them and get the best stuff ongoing, have a better relationship in a private environment away from all the noise of social media and your email inboxes. So again, Juventus sent me a subscription offer, and that's a key thing in Profila. You don't follow and like the brands. No, it's the other way around. They subscribe to you because you have what's valuable. You have what's in your head and what's in your heart as part of your Profila, and you have your wallet, your wallet share, your spending power. They want to get in front of you. They're desperate to get in front of you to engage, to make you a better customer, make you a more frequent customer, whatever that is. And so that contract, which is a Cardano smart contract when it's accepted, is the consent. And that's the key of the first three parts of what differentiates Profila: consent, transparency, and revocability. So that's consenting. I have consented to provide aspects, parts of my Profila to Juventus for a certain duration of time, a certain remuneration, and I know exactly what I'm sharing, which category of insights I'm sharing. And that's the transparency part. I can always go back and see exactly what I'm sharing with Juventus. Now, what that does is that gives them incredible power to serve me better. Because they can say, okay, well, Lucas told us in his psychographics that he enjoys women's football. So therefore the campaign we would not usually run or run less often on social media because the percentage of fans that maybe like women's football is low. They now know that's what I want. That's the kind of content I want. So that's an easier way for them to focus on that area. Or if it's a special offer for merchandise or any sort of special experiences, they know that since I'm on Profila and they brought me here, that I'm a ideal supporter to go deeper with. But what they learn about me, whether it's, let's say I'm a vegetarian and they want to highlight the vegetarian food options in the stadium. Or again, I like women's football, so I'm interested in that. Or I'm interested in the youth teams. All these things are data points that they simply don't have now and can't really easily acquire in large scale. They maybe send out a survey, but surveys, get a very, very low response rate in an email newsletter. But my Profila, since it's mine and since the questions I'm answering are for anybody who subscribes to me, not just one club, I have every incentive to keep it up to date. So this communication, in this case, is very interesting. We created a brand survey for Juventus that really helped them even add more information that was specific to Juventus about what kind of fan I am and what I'm interested in, but also how I consume the club. And one of the questions was about how do I watch the games? Where do I watch the games? And I answered that I watch them very often with friends in a pub. Now that gives them a data point, again, they didn't have before, and therefore they can send me this very targeted communication only sent to people. So what they can do is they can create a list in the brand backend for Profila and say, okay, we want to create a list of all the people who match certain criteria. Now it could be the country they live in or the age or the gender or whatever, but in this case it was based on the fact that I answered a certain question in my Profila in a certain way. And that list is then dynamic. If I was not on that list today, but I answered the question tomorrow, I would then be on that list going forward. And then they can trigger activity, they can trigger events based on that list. In this case, when we learn that somebody watches our games in a pub with friends, send them this idea about what's called the corner challenge, which I've always wanted to do. I've never been able to do, where you have a glass and every time there's a corner kick, let's say you got 5 or 6 friends, every time there's a corner kick, whoever the glass is in front of puts $1 or €1 or a coin in there and passes it on to the next person. Every corner keeps going around and around. And when the final whistle blows, whoever the glass is in front of, they get the money. It's just a small thing to do to liven things up when you're watching a game at the pub. If somebody on social media, let's say this was using that platform, never watched games in a pub, that whole communication is wasted on them. That is now clutter in their lives. It's irrelevant content that they are not going to interact with because they don't care. And so much of what we see on social media is exactly that. It's things we didn't ask for or things that are not relevant for us because they don't know who I am. They don't know what I think. They don't know what's in my head and what's in my heart. And as we like to say, the fact that now they do, it's not creepy because I told them, because I accepted a data subscription and let them in the door. So this is a targeted thing as an example of what can happen. The more they learn about me, the more they can target their communication. The other part of the rebalancing is about controlling the pipes, controlling the cadence of communication that I mentioned before. There's a feature coming called Metronome. And this allows me, brand by brand and also across my entire Profila, to specify how often they can communicate with me with 3 big buckets: exclusive content experiences, new products and special offers, and company information. And I can decide I can change the cadence and do it on a week, month, or year basis. So if I decide for a brand, I don't want to ever get company information. I don't care about your new CEO. I don't care about your social responsibility projects. I just want the fan experience things, the experiences, the offers. I can then tune that down. I can turn that knob down. And those preferences of mine are completely enforceable in the platform. If I'm part of a list that a new campaign is going out to, and I've already met my metronome settings, they've already met the metronome settings for that month or a year, I simply won't get it. So I can actually control the pipes. I can control the cadence of communication, which again is something that is not possible now. This is a feature that is very, very important to us, largely because we know it doesn't exist. Again, whether it's an email newsletter or a like and a follow, your only choice is to sever the connection, not to provide some gradients in the relationship. We want to give people that superpower. We're not interested in provoking as many engagements as possible. We want good engagements. We want good interaction between you and the brands you let in the door in Profila. We want to give you that kind of control. And it's better for them. It's less spend for them, and also the average metronome settings of a list or a group of their subscribers is something that brands have access to, not on an individual basis, but collectively. So they can see that actually it's a great sentiment feedback for them, where I don't have to click like or unlike. It's my behavior based on my interests. If they run a campaign and they can see the average metronome settings are coming down from their customers, they know they're doing something wrong. They know their content isn't compelling. So they can actually see that as, okay, how many opportunities do we have per month to really get in front of this person and make an impact? When on current social media now, there's no downside to posting every minute forever. There's no cost because they can't measure the annoyance of the clutter they give to people. and there's no cost for them to do that on these platforms, to do post after post after post. And those are the kind of things that we think brands will respond to, is they get a much better, more robust, more multifaceted feedback loop with metronome and also other sentiment analysis things that we offer to brands. The last part of this, I mentioned consent. Transparency is two of the three pillars of a data relationship. The last one is revocability. The idea that if they're sending me too much, I can turn down the metronome settings. If they're sending me things that are not relevant or sending things that are upsetting me, that data contract is always easily accessible, and I can revoke it. And the moment I revoke it, they have lost access to my data. They've lost access to the relationship. I'm no longer in any of those lists, and they no longer can send me anything. And that's up to me. And that's the kind of thing, if you think about, trying to revoke a cookie that you authorized, I don't know how to do that. I don't know anyone who does. And so it's this lack of equilibrium now that we want to fix in something different. We're not a social media platform. You can see there's no sharing, there's no feed of information from other people. It's only the brands that I've let in the door with data subscriptions. So it's my Profila is me, and it's mine. I have full control over what I do with it, who has access to it, and what they can do with it as well. So that's the kind of equilibrium we think that we know that Profila will bring, and it is addressing a very, very clear deficiency in how social media platforms evolved. So thank you very much for your time, and I will see you on the next WTF is Profila.